Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Week 1 is in the books. It was up and down for me. I feel like a loser because my most confident play was the Seahawks, who were very much the wrong side. I also feel like I'd like some takey backsies on a couple of preseason opinions on some teams and some coaches who have proven to be much the same as opposed to showing any sort of growth. Looking squarely in the Matt Canada direction here. But overall, I thought it was it was a good betting week 1. It was a miserable football product week 1, though. Am I crazy?
It wasn't some of the best football. That said, I mostly watched. So Big TV was on Vikings early, Packers late. I won both of those bets. Both of my teams look good in the second half. So maybe I'm shaded by the fact that I watched games that went, exceedingly right in the second half for my money. And I'm like, oh, this is good football. Baker Mayfield running for 6 yards along the sideline. Like, this is good. Yeah, there were some, I did not watch a second of the Titans game, and I'm probably better for it. I will take in a lot of those. I've been trying to catch up on some of the games I didn't get enough time with. Then Patrick just brings up Saints Titans. There were some bad games. Obviously, Pittsburgh as well. That was one of my favorite teaser legs. Never had a shot in hell. Every other Wong teaser. And then not really Wong, but a lot of people did use Washington. I got dicey, but most of the teaser legs did get home, which was nice for you teaser bettors. Obviously, the Jets fall into that category as well. Tonight, that one's not there. It's funny too, my most confident side, I'd say price-wise and numbers-wise, it was almost a tie for Packers and Tampa.
Yeah.
So I didn't have one of those. It's hard to differentiate what my strongest one was, but I'm going to say Green Bay because that was a clear win. Whereas Tampa, if you go back and look at that, they needed some things to go right. I'm not saying there was no shot in hell they should have stayed inside the 6, but winning that game was a little lucky. I said this to Dan before you hopped in. I said, if time traveler comes back and it's the guy with the beard, not the two ladies above in the meme. Hey, I'm your granddaughter. And then the other guy says, hey, in the Vikings Tampa game, one team has a 3-0 turnover margin win. And I would assume at that point that I'm probably just buying out of my bets. I had a little CLV. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Baker does what Baker does. Maybe I don't want this bet. So the injury to the center was massive. We had the fumble right away. And then a huge high leverage interception by Kirk Cousins in the red zone, which I have no idea what he was doing.
Yep.
Augustine says he was at the Giants game. Yeah, that was, man, not to rub salt in your wound, because we actually have someone here who, like I just said, who went to that game. But when you have tickets to the opener, I feel like a lot of people have had those tickets for a long time, and they've been talking about it all summer. They've been excited. They go to these cookouts, and they're like, oh, man, so pumped going to the Cowboys-Giants game. Week 1, got good tickets. We dropped a little more than we should have. Even if it was just a rainy game and you got rained on, I'd be kind of pissed. Like, I sat in the rain for 3.5 hours. But, man, to take the ass kicking they did, and maybe we should go in order, and we'll get to that one later because I have some takes. So let's start recapping. Let's go right off the bat.
Thursday. That game told me nothing about the Chiefs except they needed a healthy Travis Kelce ASAP. And they need a healthy Chris Jones, or they need a resolution on the Chris Jones ASAP. That Chiefs team can come back on. They're not going to be able to put away leads as easily as they have in years past without those two healthy bodies. Second and third best players, pretty obviously. There's a brewing take I have about Dan Campbell. His coach of the year status obviously goes up with the win. Big upset. But some of his decision making in that game was truly perplexing. And you specifically characterized it as like, it's like he's rolling a 20-sided die and just doing whatever, the dungeon master says in terms of going forward or kicking or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's got like an inherent aggressiveness, which puts him in the right direction on a lot of decisions. But then the fact that he's so unpredictable might actually ultimately be an advantage, right? As opposed to the likes of the Shane Steichens of the world, where you kind of know what he's going to do.
I think we landed in the same spot on this because eventually I got to the same conclusion. Like, this guy is just winging it on these fourth down decisions. But when you add that second part where he's inherently aggressive, just like you said, like, where do coaches usually fail on fourth down decisions?
Yeah,
they're usually too conservative. So if you're by nature aggressive, and you're basically flipping a coin inside your brain every time,
but it's loaded to the aggressive.
But it's loaded to the aggressive side. Like, even if you're not making it's the and I won't call out who we were making fun of for this argument, but it's essentially like using astrology to figure out calculus. But you're right. Sometimes you're right 80% of the time. There's somebody that's right that often, and his aggressive nature is going to make him right more often than not on fourth down. Huge win. Obviously, he's a massive favorite now in the Coach of the Year. He was already the favorite preseason, but that's a long way to go on that one because there's a bunch of coaches that made good cases that had good cases to start with. Like you said, it took a pick six. It took essentially missing your second and third best player to get them a win. A win is a win. They're a team that's going to stay in games. ASRB is very, very good. We haven't even seen what they're going to do with Jahmyr Gibbs quite yet. They have some pieces. That defense might stink, though.
They might stink, yeah.
Because can you imagine if they'd have caught? I mean, basically the one ball. Kadarius Toney catches that last ball. They're in field goal range. The game is over. Like, there was 6 or 7 catchable balls where it's like, oh man, this game could have gone either way. That's how it goes, though. And I do think I'm not upgrading Detroit much, if at all, because I think that defense might be worse than I expected.
Yeah.
Kansas City, I'm leaving alone too because we're going to get those good players back. It'll be interesting to see what we do. More Rashee Rice, more Justice. I can't think of the fifth receiver. Justin Watson. More of those, maybe more of those than Tony and Sky Moore at this point. See if you get something out of them because I think we know what we have in Sky Moore. Yeah. And Tony is Chuck Knobloch at this point. So
Sunday's first rotation game was Carolina-Atlanta. This is the only one that I got really right, I guess, of the later in the week bets I made. Atlanta came through on the basis of their defense being pretty good against Carolina, but boy, oh boy, does Carolina lack any kind of weaponry at any way, shape, or form. The interesting thing I wanted to bring up about this game, this was an aggressive bet down, all in the week and a half leading up to week one kickoff, but then there was late buyback on the Carolina-Atlanta over. I kind of saw it and was like, oh, I got, you get that pit in your stomach, like, ugh. Like, I hate when that happens and there's like a real sharp late buyback on that steamy of a total. Usually that's a bad sign, but realistically never felt like that total was going to be threatened. I think the major kind of takeaways here were Carolina's defense I thought was very good through a lot of that game, but Atlanta, when they play that way, it's kind of only a matter of time until your guys run out of gas, until your big bodies are just a little fatigued, particularly early in the season, particularly, when for instance, they go on the road and they're playing outdoors in a hot type of weather game, maybe at the end of the season too, when we're in cold weather and, people's bodies are broken down. But it felt like they were just like, we're going to keep doing this until it fucking works because Desmond Ridder does not have a live arm. He made one very impressive pass, but that was more of like Kyle Pitts making, I thought, of really amazingly athletic move on the corner who was covering him perfectly to haul that one in. No real sign or threat, I think, of Atlanta getting it going in the passing game anytime soon. But their bet on the rushing attack and being physical seems to be working. And I think that makes them an interesting case against your Packers this week. We'll get to that, though.
Yeah. The recipient of getting to play a rookie in the first game, missing his top target, that helps.
Yeah.
It's a very much a work in progress down in Carolina. We get to see more Mingo, which was fun, but it's still it's still a rough cast of characters around Bryce Young at this point, and he's still very early in the learning curve. Neither team got to 300 yards total offense. The total staying under 40 is the correct, that was the correct move. That was the correct bet. But at the same time, it was dicey at times. Caroline had the ball on the opposite side of the 50 with 2 minutes to go. And at that point, knowing that it's 14-point lead, you had to be feeling bad, because that's one of those where it's like, they let him have this garbage touchdown because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of winning and losing the game. But because that total closed right around 40, correct?
40.5, yeah.
Yeah, that could have got awful.
You know what?
There might have been a 2-point conversion that got kind of scored because it landed on 24-10.
Falcons were effectively the beneficiaries of 5 turnovers. They got 3.
Yeah, the fourth down.
And then the 2 fourth downs. Yeah, there were 2 fourth downs. So effectively 5 drives for the Panthers ended in a turnover, either active or on downs. And Jesse Bates, the payday, finally, talk about getting immediate equity for going out and giving a free agent some dollars. Onyemata too. He was very, very alive on that on that D line. We weren't supposed to be talking about the defense taking this step forward. I mean, we did a little in the offseason for sure, but it was exciting because it was like this offense, positionless football. But it's going to be funny when this turns out to be Desmond Ridder throwing the ball 12 times and the defense keeping them in games. Yeah. It's not what we pictured back in March. What's up next? Houston, Baltimore, under with a bullet. Under was good here. This one was a really big result for me in the morning. And I still don't exactly understand why the market thought that the Texans were going to get to 17 points. I don't think I'm being results based here in my, kind of patting my back on that being the right side. This is one where there was resistance during the week, but then ultimately it gave up and then it went to 43. So that was directionally correct. There were some people that were betting on the Texans with the big points, I think expecting Lamar Jackson to be a little rusty potentially, and maybe that was true in the first half, but he settled down a bit in the second half. I didn't think he looked amazing. He got sacked 4 times. He wasn't all that dynamic on the ground, but the Texans just aren't a very talented team, and CJ Stroud looks like the game's moving a little fast for him, which is not crazy, and he doesn't have a ton to go with. 10 targets to Robert Woods, 11 to Nico Collins. If that's the formula every week, I don't know how long it's going to take for the Texans to score 20 points, but it's going to be a while.
Yeah, as Johan points out in the chat, 268 to 265 total yardage. That comes out to what, like 530? That's going to be like 35 points if you divide it by 15. Pretty on brand for how many yards they scored. Like that total was, correct to the under. That's one too. I said last week I made it more than 10 in my numbers. I just didn't have the balls to pull it off. Obviously, I left a winner on the table, but I'd rather do that than put an extra loser on the card. And Baltimore didn't look that great at times. They did struggle at times. And as somebody already pointed out, and we've talked about in the Discord this morning, a plethora of injuries. Already had Humphrey out, already had Andrews missing time. Yeah. Now you have a knee injury, an ankle injury on the offensive line. Dobbins obviously out for the season. Nobody's excited about bringing Melvin Gordon up. I wish they would go find a way to sign Kareem Hunt. I would prefer that over Melvin Gordon. But they're bringing him up from the practice squad. And then what was the other one? Safety? They had a safety.
Oh, defensive back. Williams?
Shoulder injury. I think he missed the rest of the game. So, and they go up against a Bengals offense that was thoroughly embarrassed last week. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, not ready to write the Ravens in as winners of the AFC North just yet. Speaking of not ready to write in as winners of the AFC North just yet, the Cleveland Browns took care of business against Cincinnati. I can't comment a ton on this game because even though this was the main game on at the Bellagio where we were watching games with the sound on, I barely watched any of it because it was pretty unwatchable football. The standout unit is the Browns defensive line. That is a recurring theme in matchups against Joe Burrow for whatever reason. They seem to have his number. They seem to have the offensive line for the Bengals number. I guess my major takeaway looking at the stat sheet here is that the lack of a preseason seems to have impacted Joe Burrow to the bad. And the offensive line grade that I have for the Bengals, which was very bullish, I think was potentially too high. Because pass pro, particularly, the way those guys are gelling, just didn't really feel like they had a ton of chances to give Burrow time in the pocket. But even with Burrow having time in pocket, there were a bunch of throws he just did not have a chance in that one. Like T. Higgins absolutely blew away his man coverage to open up a touchdown. Burrow threw it out of bounds. It's going to take reps between him and his guys to be a little bit more effective, but this is a good week to do that. It is worth noting though, Mike McDonald has had sort of the recipe for doing similar terrible things to Joe Burrow. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Burrow looked rough. Higgins somehow shut out 82 yards passing. That front seven from Cleveland was good. We knew that was going to be good. Garrett quickly interjecting himself right into the top of the Defensive Player of the Year award market. He looked otherworldly at times. He always does that. I guess Chubb was good. Probably the highlight of the Browns offense was probably Nick Chubb. He ran for 100 yards. Watson didn't look good at time. One of the most egregiously poor interception throws you'll see maybe all year, where he just right at a guy in the wrong jersey. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs the LASIK like Jameis. That was super rough. Like the Browns were not impressive in this win. That looked pretty impressive from a scoreboard standpoint. And now they lost it. They lost an offensive lineman, Jack Conklin, for the years. He tore everything.
Give me a sense. Do you have a take yet on Watson, or do you want to save it for Wednesday?
We'll save it for Wednesday. I want to dig in a little more. I didn't watch a lot of this game, but basically what I did, he looked rough
every time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He held the ball forever.
Yeah, forever.
And now we're gonna lose you're gonna lose another offensive lineman. You're gonna hold it. Like he is going to be the quarterback or sacks or quarterback stat guy for the year, I guess.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like, I don't think I'm overreacting here, but this is now a carryover from last year. His arm doesn't have anything. His arm looks dead.
It looks noodly. It's not good.
Yeah. Don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know what it was about getting massages that gives you a more powerful arm, but apparently there's a correlation there. I'm not saying it's causation, but it's certainly a correlation. All right. Let's revisit that, because I'm like ready to red alert the Cleveland offense with as long as Watson's the guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be exactly what I said about Atlanta, but better, where it's, hey, the defense keeps you in games and you really need Nick Chubb to show up that day.
You really need it. Yep. Okay. Jacksonville, Indianapolis. This is the most difficult result to parse. Okay. This is a really tough one to parse. The Colts in the end of game should have covered. They should have covered. If Anthony Richardson doesn't get hurt on 1st and goal, he's getting that ball into the end zone. Anthony Richardson had pop. He had moments where you're like, this guy's going to be a guy. This guy might be the best of the 3 guys who started as rookies. And he might be the best right now, which is saying a lot in terms of what ultimately his ceiling and his arc is. He's a problem in short yardage. Absolutely a problem in goal line settings. And realistically, they should have scored a touchdown at the end and covered the spread. Interesting that Shane Steichen was willing to go for it there instead of just taking the 3 points and trying an onside kick. I'm not sure that was the game theory made a ton of sense, but he was certainly playing for the cover. But whatever the case is, they don't get the points, and so they don't cover. And so, yeah. So here's the problem, though. Were they the right side? Oh, okay, good.
Report just came out about his leg and ankle soreness, and they said if the game was like winnable, he would have played.
Okay.
Like basically he came out because they were down by 10 with no time left. Like he would have played those final 2 plays had it been, an important game to win. So like he looks like he's going to be fine this week.
Okay. Here's the other part though. Were the Colts the right side, even though they, even though they didn't get there? That touchdown that put them up, boy, was that a fluke. That was one of the flukier, most bizarre plays of week 1.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think this is always a black and white, hey, there's an answer on who is the right side. And I think in a game like this, where you had a team end the game in the red zone, you had 5 total turnovers, you had 6 red zone possessions, you had 8 fourth down attempts. I don't think there's actually an answer as like, hey, who is the right side here? I'm not. I think it was probably just a good number, and this goes just as many ways to the Colts as it does to the Jags at the number it closed at. So that said, it had to hurt, and there was some very good late game spread drama between that the Eagles
Titans
game,
one
the
was
Titans
weird.
game.
We'll get to the Titans one.
Obviously, the Miami game. There was some good spread drama right away.
There was
week
some good,
one.
yeah. If you were watching just from a gambling perspective, you enjoyed week 1. I think if you were watching it as a football purist, you're probably like, "What happened to my game?"
Richardson was as advertised. He found Pittman enough where I'm comfortable upgrading this offense a little bit.
Okay,
from where
that was exactly where I was going to ask you. So it's
getting a bump.
Okay,
I bet them this week.
Is it clear to you that the Jags are the number 1 team in the AFC South and that they're probably going to win all 6 head-to-heads?
It's hard to take the Tennessee results and make a serious not mess out of that as well. But I have them. Them clearly ahead of the other 2.
And then the clear tier 2 now is Indy.
I think Indy's ahead of Tennessee as far as I'm going to look at it. But I did bump their offense up a little.
Okay.
And I did end up betting their money line against Houston already this year.
So basically, let's just qualify that the Jacksonville Jaguars just got a hard-fought win with their most difficult divisional opponent on the road.
Yeah, I was going to say that this might be the toughest of the 6 if it's the best of the other 3, and it was a road game, and they've struggled early on in the season at certain points. So good win.
Also, one other thing I want to put on qualifier: there will be people as we get later into the middle part of the season that will doubt Trevor Lawrence win-loss record because his EPA per play is not going to be great. Remember this game, because I thought Lawrence was excellent in this game, and he was at the negative variance for 2 pretty fluky turnovers that had big negative EPA per play. Okay, so if we're like halfway through the season and we're like, man, the Jags are 6-1, 6-2, 7-1. But Trevor Lawrence EPA per play is kind of middle of the pack among quarterbacks. I don't think you're going to need to think a little bit harder about the context about why he's not closer to the top of the pile.
The running game and the short passing game was nice, especially late. The throw to Zay Jones was very nice. Etienne's very good, and this defense might actually be as bad as expected. There's going to be some other high scoring games once they go.
Michael makes a great point. Jags did lose Scherf in that one. Is that a long term?
I don't have a super good update on that.
I don't either, but they're thin on the offensive line, so that could matter. All right.
He went off on a cart.
Yeah.
So it was an ankle. We'll find out.
Okay.
And yes, I'm sorry we didn't mention Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is very good.
He's awesome.
He is a top 10 receiver in the league right now.
Yeah. Dude, Zay Jones made the catch of the day. He's your wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Maybe your target 5 after Etienne and Ingram. Like that, like if that's your fifth skill target. Yeah, very exciting. All right. Tampa, you kind of covered this, I think, in good enough detail off the top. I don't disagree with any of your commentary. Tampa Bay +6, right side. Hottest side on the board all week. This got bet down to 4. There were sharp people we know who laid 4 with Minnesota trying to be the buyback. It went to 3.5. Like this was like pretty clearly one of the more professional and kind of one-sided sharp plays of the week in the sides. And I would say that the 3 turnovers obscure what the true result should be. My takeaway from this game was Minnesota's offense is still very, very freaking good.
Yeah.
They're maybe better than last year in a lot of ways, if they have a healthy center, I guess. But
and Tampa's defense is good, but you simply cannot play zone like that against Justin Jefferson.
No.
Like, they looked very good for long chunks of time, and then Justin Jefferson is suddenly in between his 2 guys in a silly zone that they're trying against him, and he's 40 yards up the field. It's like I guess it's one of those where hey, we can't stop him. Maybe let's try to stop everything else and limit him.
So I think they're potentially
good.
they're potentially a red alert against a decent wide receiver one, which I think comes into play this week as now we have flipped from Tampa as a +6 dog when we bet against Vikings to now -3 favorites at home against the Bears. Might be a little bit of an overreaction. If that goes to 3.5, I think I have to play Bears.
I know. I don't.
All right. Let's move on. I don't have any other thoughts other than Minnesota's going to score points, and I like that over against Philly, but we'll get there. I think that's been bet a little bit already, but I think that should be 51. Tennessee, New Orleans was one of the games I would most like to have erased from my memory.
Eternal sunshine of the spotless.
I'm going to try not to be as negative as I actually feel about this game, but I'm just going to tell you that the New Orleans coaching mind hive overall is an abomination. The fact that they came in with that game plan, with the weapons that they had against that defense, was egregious. It was a clear sign that they are not a professional staff, and that the Saints, I think, are fine to write off as being in the playoff picture, even though they have a very easy schedule. Like, the fact that the staff was that plan was that bad for that team, I kind of hold that against them with extreme prejudice. The turnovers made it super fluky. Tennessee's red zone offense was as bad as any professional offense I can remember seeing. I don't really understand what's going on with Derrick Henry. He looks like he's lost weight, maybe. I don't know if he's as powerful.
I think we're finally at the point where he's going to split more. And they drafted Sharp, and he looked good enough to take some of those third down carries. And I think that's fine. But this is one of those wild swing games where if the play calling in the red zone is just 20% better on both sides, this game flies over. There was 7 red zone possessions?
Yes, so many. So the fact that this didn't go over is absolutely absurd. But even more than that, the major takeaway here was Tannehill is past the point on the quarterback arc where you can expect him to perform well, I believe. Some of that is what he's working with. The offensive line in Tennessee is bad. We knew that. The skill position group was not good. We knew that. The most electric player on offense for Tennessee in this game was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Like, he was the only guy that had any juice that was wearing a Titans jersey. And I think this was as soft a test as that offense had, and they scored 15 points. This is the real weird one, Andy. Mike Vrabel making a one-score game when there was 2 minutes left defied logic to me. And you need to score a touchdown. You need to score a touchdown there. What does making it a 1-point game do you?
I guess you kick another field goal, but man, the time didn't. Yeah, the time didn't justify that. Looking back at like the drive charts, we like him as a coach too. He's generally respected, but not a good call. And other than shout out to the kickers for being 8 for 8. I'm not super sure exactly what to say about this game. You did the right thing, like getting Olave 10 targets. That's correct. Using Hopkins as much as they did was correct. It just once they got past the 20s, the play calling just turned to absolute shit pumpkins at that point. And we'll see if there's a like you said, I don't believe in Tannehill. Vrabel made a bad call. I still bet the over in the Tennessee game week 2.
Okay. I'll have to ask you about this, but so the things that I didn't understand about that call particularly, you have 3 timeouts in the 2-minute warning. I get it. The game's far from end of stages, right? You got a lot. There's a lot that you presumably will get another drive. If that drive is deep in your own territory, you're telling me what you saw from your offense today was going to, be able to do 2-minute offense with no timeouts and get you back into field goal range for another attempt. Like that it didn't compute. You were pretty damn in the mix there for a touchdown, I thought. And I didn't get why he elected to completely pull the rug, especially because on 3rd and 12, they did an intermediate pass, which looked like it was going to set them up for a go for it, not a kick a field goal. So very, very weird decision-making by Vrabel. Getting it down to the 1st and 10 at the New Orleans 15 with 4 minutes to play. I was like, oh man, Tennessee might win this one. Tennessee, by the way, was a hot side. I'm very intrigued to see if the people who were betting Tennessee go back to the well with this week against the Chargers, because they're going to get many more points and they're at home now. So fascinating to see how that plays out. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up about Tennessee. You ready? Ron Torbert, the official, the head referee, that crew, they were an abomination. They were unbelievably poor. And there was a play where Derek Carr very clearly fumbled in the act of passing. They blew it dead. Tennessee had a clear recovery and ran back for a touchdown.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game, but people were mad about that in the moment.
Oh my God. It was like literally like you watch the replay, you see when the ball starts to move in his hand as he's still going backwards, and you're like, oh, okay, this is clearly going to be reverse. They're going to reverse this call, but because they blew it dead, they're going to give Tennessee the ball at like the 10-yard line. Like, great job, crew. You're supposed to let it play if you think it's 50-50. But it was almost like because they blew it dead, they decided to then also make a bad decision on the replay, like covering up a bad with another bad.
We fucked up. We got to go.
Yeah, that was literally what it felt like. I am still looking for any kind of explanation as to how that was within the rules of football, at least the way that they've written them. So Torbert's crew is on watch, man. Those guys, and also Torbert's crew, the number one most painfully annoying offensive holding call crew that I can remember. Like, when a running play is predictable, the defense has a stacked box, it's clearly going for no gain, and you're like, oh, great, wasted down, you dipshits. Well, this crew loves calling holding on those plays, whereas literally like they gain no advantage.
A lot of times you do see them just let that go.
Yeah, like they gain no advantage. It didn't
open up some big hole. It feels like there is some subjectivity to holding. I think most refs are like that. Like, it was just a big scrum.
This was a clear offense shoot themselves in the foot minus play. Don't tack 10 yards onto it. Like, it just felt completely unnecessary and beyond. My favorite
holding call is Jerome Boger.
Oh yeah, why?
Holding. He doesn't say the L. He just it's the same every day. Holding.
Yeah,
I've got to see him in person. He's
but Torbert's crew, I thought
on watch.
It's a D.
We just spent so much time with the Tennessee game. I feel bad now. Sorry, guys.
Let's move on. That was one I watched the most in the morning. I had a lot of thoughts. I don't have a lot of thoughts about Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Then Pittsburgh was clearly the wrong side. San Francisco's they closed -1, dude. There was late money at the window for Pittsburgh. I had
San Francisco
optimistic as hell
up in my ratings, but like I left some room because it's like, well, I'm gonna kind of find a middle ground for Purdy. He's not as good as last year, but he's not a mess. And that's where, and it's such an important position that I probably had the Niners a little lower than they deserved. And based on what we saw, it wasn't like they went and played, the fucking Bears and, we beat up on a bad defense and looked good. Like, that was a good defense at home, a good coach, a good squad. Like, that's a good team. Their defense showing up and stopping Pickett is one thing.
Yeah.
To look that good on offense against what is widely regarded as a good defense, a well-coordinated defense, a good coach. Like, I had to give their offense a bump in the Purdy spot. Essentially, he looked good enough, and it's like, shit, this is the best team in the league right now. If Kelsey's got nagging injuries, and let's say the Eagles' offense is struggling a little, like we saw, it's like, shit, is this it? Is this the best team? Is this finally Shanny's thing? So not a lot to say.
TJ Watt with an extremely quiet 3 sacks. There was a lot of no-showing, particularly in the secondary for the Steelers. There was some really bad tackling for the Steelers. The Steelers overall had a whiff of a team that was reading their own kind of people are buzzing about them. And I will say that I thought Kenny Pickett in particular looked like he was playing nervous. Looked like he was he didn't look like he was feeling good out there.
Very inaccurate at times.
Yes.
Even without, heavy pressure. And there was some pressure.
Yes. So not a good sign for him to now go and play 2 games in a row in prime time. One of those against an elite defense. So I think I am very, very much on not a sell my Pittsburgh stock necessarily yet, but like we're nervous heading into Monday night.
The Cam Hayward injury.
Yeah, that hurt. Yeah, that hurt.
Deontay Johnson as well.
Matt Canada. Matt Canada needs to get a goddamn clue. What are we doing? The predictable nature of his offense against a smart defense should have been a sign. I wish I had thought about that.
True, Caleb. His helmet is very big.
It's a very, very big helmet. All right. So bigger takeaways on San Francisco there, that they are the best team in football potentially, or at least co-best team with the Cowboys.
We haven't seen the Bills play, but the Cowboys they have it together right now.
All right. Last of the morning games was Arizona, Washington. Weird one. Arizona, I thought, played like a team that had very, very, a lot of bulletin board material about people telling them how bad they were going to be and that they were tanking and that they were going to lose by 1 million points because they played very hard, but they're still not very good. They scored a touchdown in this game, but it was a kind of a fluky defensive touchdown. Most of my takeaways in this game were the game is moving way, way fast for Sam Howell still. If you look like that against that defense, then you are in for an interesting trip to Denver this week. Any takeaways for you?
Yeah, they did not score an offensive touchdown. Still got to 16 points with the fumble recovery and Matt Prater, very good kicking, I guess, including a long one. Yeah, this is more of and this has been mentioned ad nauseum throughout the years, even by us. Players don't tank, teams do. And, these guys are still playing for contracts. They're still playing for, this is their job. Players definitely do not tank. They played very hard, especially on the defensive side at times. And Howell didn't look all that good for big chunks of the game. I wasn't super keen on the offensive game plan. I wasn't keen on a lot of things from Washington. They're probably lucky to get a home win.
They were
here. And there was chunks of that late in the game where, here, let me look at it. Yeah, when it was 16-10, it was 16-10 and with Arizona having the ball.
Yeah.
With very little time late in the third quarter. Even a field goal there, they go up by 9. You're feeling really bad about any Washington position, even a teaser down to 1. So they have some things to figure out. And obviously they have a new offensive coordinator. So far, the Bieniemy experiment is not great.
No. And I thought in particular, where it's shown as a bad game call was you recover a fumble. You have the ball in the Arizona 22. You've taken Arizona's best shot. Go score a touchdown. What are we doing? You dinked around. You barely took any time off the clock, and you kicked a field goal. Like, you left Arizona in that game. You gave them the ball back with 2 minutes to go, and the opportunity to come down and score a touchdown and beat you. They fumbled. They turned it over on down, so it doesn't matter. But still, nothing impressive about Washington in this contest. Not even the defense, who forced a couple turnovers. So. Bad win for the commies. Now, this closes the book on the early games, Andy, and between that and Thursday Night Football, unders at this point in the week were 8-1.
8-1. I know. I bet one total, and it was that one.
It was the one. That was the one.
Looked out a little on that.
Yeah,
that was another one too. There were not the commensurate yardage to really take that over, but they were efficient. The teams were efficient when they did move the ball, when they were in the red zone. So
yeah,
good job, Andy. On to the late games. What do we lead with?
Yeah, the late games leaves with your Packers. Go Pack, go.
Love looked good, especially with you missing your wide receiver 1. He still looked good. He had like 3 deep balls he needed to figure out. It's like the Josh Allen thing, and I'm not comparing him to Josh Allen, but it's like, oh, you had a guy open deep and you can't make that throw. Like, you're never going to make it in this league. We've learned that people can fix that. Obviously, him being the poster boy for that. But man, he had a couple guys that beat the pants off of some Bears corners, some Bears defensive backs, and he missed a couple guys. Even the throw to the tight end late, where he just like fell down. That was more on Musgrave too. Musgrave just decided to look like an idiot there. But yeah, and that's the thing too, that he didn't get all the help in the world from his receiving core.
Yeah.
It looked good. If Aaron Jones is injured.
his best EPA play was the Aaron Jones catch and scramble. Like he got help after the yak in from his receiver.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Aaron Jones was great. He was the best player on that team, and that's a huge loss if that hamstring is going to hamper him because AJ Dillon doesn't have that juice. He ran like 13 times for 20 yards or something. And I know some of those runs were just killing the clock at the end, and they were just, hey, run it off guard so we can take 40 seconds. But
he was a big minus.
Really, Aaron Jones needs to be healthy for this team to continue to play well against better teams than the Bears. That said, Love showed me enough to, keep me positive about this team and this team's chances to win the NFC North. The Bears play calling was garbage.
Yep.
Hey, we got the first pick. Oh my God, we traded back and got DJ Moore. We should throw to him twice. Fuck's sakes. We're going to end up in the same damn position. Like, oh no, we don't know if Fields is our guy anymore, and we have a top 5 pick again. Like they looked pretty rough at times. On
didn't you tweet out? Didn't you tweet out the picture of Ryan Poles?
I put it in the Discord.
In the Discord.
Yeah, Ryan. When they showed Ryan Poles on
looking at the iPad, he's like he's watching Caleb Williams clips.
Yeah, I tweeted out a picture of the analytics cylinder. They didn't use that.
Yeah, where was the analytics cylinder today? No, I thought the Bears looked pretty bad. The Bears looked like a 4-win team. That said, I don't know that they should be outside of a field goal against Tampa, but we will get to that when we get to that. Yeah, you're not utilizing DJ Moore. I guess I get it if Jair Alexander's on the field, but I didn't love plan B, C, or D for them.
You have to find a way to scheme it to get to your guy. That's right. I wonder if Getsy isn't it.
Did you watch much Vegas Denver?
A little bit. That was rough. At times it looked like we had some juice from Russ, but doesn't have the. I wrote that today in the newsletter too. I'm like, man, he just might not have the weapons because without Judy, that's a huge minus. And then the tight ends kind of split up there. I think I'd have to look at snaps. Maybe I don't have a good grasp on that because we don't even have a full game of this year, but they lost a tight end to injury. Judy was missing. Obviously, Tim Patrick's gone. It might just be like, even if we fix Russ, we don't have enough weapons around him.
It's a bad offense.
Yeah. It was a bad offense. Defense played good enough, but that was another ugly game.
I meant to mention it, but there was aggressive betting to the under in Green Bay, Chicago that flew over. I think some of that was late turnovers. Because that was on pace to go under for a while.
The first half it was like 7-6.
There was aggressive betting to the under here, and in favor of the Raiders. This closed Denver -3. That was a two-way market though. There was some pretty sharp action that I saw come in and take some. When it got to 3 flat, took some Denver back out to 3.5. So there was a little push pull there, but most of the people we talked to are on the Raiders, and they got a hard fought win. I don't know that I take away anything about the Raiders defense being good as much as I worry that the Denver offense might be bad, irrespective of Russ, just as you said. And the Raiders offense is, I guess, giving them a little credit for succeeding against a very talented defense. Tough to draw any conclusions about them.
It's hard. Jimmy was very efficient.
Put himself in Herb's way already, though.
Yeah, I worry that he's not going to make the season, but just standard Jimmy, like, hey, he's efficient and he won a close game. Jacobs was okay. I was going to say Jacoby Myers was their leading target getter, and now he's concussed. Of the concussions over the weekend, that was one of the worser ones. I think there's a decent chance he missed time. You still have Adams and name another wide receiver there. I can name a tight end. Hooper.
What about the white guy? The little scrambly white guy. What's his name?
White guy. DeAndre Carter he's not a scrambly white guy. I was gonna say
Hunter Renfrow.
Okay. I don't think he had a target. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he was on the team. I'm not sure
did he dress?
I'm not even sure. I didn't watch a lot of that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch any of it either.
Yeah, Myers. Yeah, if Myers is out, that does hurt because they don't have the best depth there.
Yeah, fair enough. And also, for whatever reason, Myers and Jimmy G had some chemistry.
Yeah, it was working, and now he's concussed. So
Yeah. Okay.
Don't have a lot of takeaways on that one.
Let's move down to a game that I think is worth spending a little bit of time on. Miami Dolphins win 36-34 against the Chargers. Now, I was pro Dolphins at 3. I didn't bet it because I was like, this game's giving me all kinds of weird vibes. And then you were like, I like Dolphins. I was like, okay, fine. Let's go Dolphins. It was a sweaty side. There was lots of moments of the game I thought we weren't going to get there. The Dolphins defense the Dolphins defense gave me heartburn for like 2.5 hours. But every time they were down, Tua found a way to answer. Tua was also at the positive behest of really, 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 really good scheming. Mike McDaniel versus Brandon Staley was the matchup that mattered the most in this game. I thought it was going to be Fangio, Kellen Moore. It was not. Kellen Moore had fine scheme and answers for what Fangio was doing. But the McDaniel v Staley felt like a mismatch. Is that fair?
Yeah. Didn't mention LaFleur when I talked about that game, but LaFleur and McDaniel probably made some decent strides for Coach of the Year as well. And it's going to be strictly based on, oh my God, look at these offenses. They're able, LaFleur's is different. We're doing it with someone that's not Rodgers. That's magic. But if this offense continues to make Tua look like, and Tua did not get sacked, that's the biggest positive I think you take away from anything here, especially with the guys they line up across from him on a tough front for the Chargers front seven there. But if we continue, we don't have to have 450-yard games, but if he's efficient, the depth of target is, continuing to be deep to put up these big numbers. Hill does what he does. You still have Waddle and Braxton Berrios chipped in, River Kraft. Like there was a bunch of Mostert looked pretty good for the most part when they needed him. Wasn't a big stat sheet guy, but when they needed him down in the red zone, he looked good. Like if the offense looks good, like Mike McDaniel is your, one of your Coach of the Year candidates for sure.
Yeah. Chargers won the turnover battle 2-0. Chargers won time of possession 33-27, Andy. How the hell did they lose this game?
I know.
Oh, wow. I think, Herbert, I thought looked fine. I didn't see anything in his kind of play that suggested red flags.
It's still just like, and I mentioned this today. Somebody else mentioned this. Like, it's just a lack of deep balls, and he's got a fucking howitzer. And some of that is scheme, and some of that is his reluctance, but I'd still, you have 3 good receivers. Go deep, baby.
Tyreek Hill should be your favorite for Offensive Player of the Year this minute. Yeah. Although I think with the injury potential of Tua any minute, and with the fact that some games are going to be Waddle games and some games are going to be Hill games, I don't think I can play Hill in good conscience at current prices for OPOI, even though I agree he should be the favorite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't like it as a short number. That's definitely a preseason kind of play.
Cool. The next game on the list was Philly, New England. This one's really tough to parse too. Philly was pretty aggressively bet against in this game. This was a game that I thought the hot side was New England. Closed -3.5, -105 for Philly. Total was bet down from 46 to 44. This one crept over the closing total. This is one of the handful of total middles, I guess. The Patriots spotted Philly a 16-point lead on a really bad interception that was Mac Jones's fault, on a really bad fumble that was Zeke Elliott's fault. And then they buckled down and played really good defense. And I thought I finally started attacking the part of the field where Philadelphia is the weakest. And the Patriots came back to make it a game and threatened to cover. The personal kind of roller coaster of watching them convert the 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game, only then to have it come off with a holding penalty.
Yeah.
That was miserable. I had a
I
lot
missed
on.
that
I
play.
had a lot on New England.
I flipped the challenge. I flipped the channel and saw them trying the 2-point conversion from like the 10 or whatever. I'm like, oh no, oh like this is rough. So yeah, I feel like New England was the right side. In fact, New England was the right side. Their defense played amazing. If the offense hadn't given them those 2 turnovers and put them in such a negative game state immediately, I really think we would have been looking at a completely different outcome. Although I wonder how that offense plays when they're not in that game state, because they did seem to kind of flip a switch once the lead was a little bit bigger. Yeah, they were bad turnovers. Like if they take care of the ball, their defense is going to keep them in games. This is a really good defense. I was really impressed with them, and I don't want to downgrade Philly's offense.
No,
I think they ran into much is being made about Philly's offense not looking good. This is one of the toughest defenses they'll play all year. They are about to go play an absolute get right. It's a short week, but you want to play get right. And especially if Hurts handles the blitz all right next week against Minnesota this Thursday, they are going to go scorched earth on that defense, because that's what's available is, hey, here's a bunch of blitzes. I have A.J. Brown. I have Devonta Smith, and I have them one-on-one on the outside against below average cornerbacks. And if the safety help goes one way, I'm going the other way, and it's a touchdown as long as the blitz doesn't get home. Nobody blitzed more than Minnesota last week. And honestly, Tampa blitzed a shitload too. That was the 2 highest blitz rates of the whole week, both over 40%. If they try that with Philly, good bleeping luck, because leaving your corners on an island is going to be kind of a disaster for Minnesota against a lot better offense.
I could not agree with you more on all of these concepts, and I will say that Philly has a very soft schedule of defenses with the in between now and their bye week, with the 2 exceptions. They got at the Jets in week 6, and they got versus the Cowboys in week 9. I think now if you're trying to buy low on any Philadelphia kind of naysaying, now is the time. They're going to light up the scoreboard these, a bunch of weeks coming up here. They get to, and Andy, you know who's Philly next 2 opponents are? Minnesota and Tampa. So good luck. Did you say that? I know you said Minnesota, but
I didn't realize it was Tampa. Week 3.
Yeah. So good luck with that. And by the way, you get to play Tampa with some extra rest. So cool. No other thoughts other than I'm sad that the Patriots didn't cover. That really was that the end of game state too, where New England could have won, would have been wild. That would have really flipped
after that start, because two teams started their games like that against NFC East opponents, and one of them bootstrapped up, got their ass back in gear, made it a game, and almost won it at the end. The other one lost by 40 points. There's two ways. Yeah, there's 2 ways to go.
Let's relive my least favorite game of the week 1 slate, which was the LA Rams proving that they are just fine, especially on offense. No Cooper Kupp, no problem. Puka Nacua, I think I said his name right.
Your rookie receiving leader in every category, basically.
He did a phenomenal job, Cooper Kupp impression in that game. Yeah. Like really, really tough, hard fought routes, crisp routes, tough catches. Everything about his performance was solid. Tutu Atwell was fine. I thought there were some moments in the first half where he was, didn't look sharp, but he made the play of the game, which was breaking it open on 3rd and 8. And Andy, the 2 things that I should have recognized more clearly. Well, there's 3, but let's go with the actual matchup parts of this game. You worry about Geno Smith if he's facing interior pressure. They did not fortify their interior offensive line, and they went up against Aaron Donald. That mattered in this game. Good. When Geno Smith is under pressure up the middle, he does what he did yesterday, and he throws deep balls that are uncatchable down the sidelines. Okay. He did not have a single target in this game over the middle of the field longer than 10 yards. I mean, I suppose it's possible that, because I haven't looked at the All-22 and I don't think I will watch it because I don't want to watch another second of this game. I suppose that Raheem Morris put Shane Waldron in a box and just had that part of the field really well defended. And that's why they didn't attack there. But it was weird that they were not even trying to take advantage of a weak off linebackers or weak safeties, which I would have guessed would have been the bread and butter of the Seattle offense in the blind. That kind of missing that part of the handicap was not good. The other part of the handicap I missed was, if you can't get pressure on Matt Stafford and you give him time, it kind of doesn't matter who he's throwing to. He's going to be efficient. And the 3rd and 8 that I remember so vividly at the start of the second half, they're like not quite at midfield yet. Seattle defends it. They get the ball back. They could go score and make it a 2-score game and potentially put it away. Instead, Stafford has an eternity in the pocket and throws an absolute beautiful dime downfield to Tutu Atwell, who had come open. Now, that to me was the other failing of Seattle in terms of their roster vision, where they did not address the pass rush in the offseason to the degree that you can get anyone to beat those guys in the pass rush. No one in 3rd and 8 could find a way to get pressure on Stafford. You're going to give him all the time in the world. And so the fact that you couldn't really create pressure against what I think is a pretty weak offensive line, the fact that you couldn't defend the interior of the offensive line, granted against the Hall of Famer, or have a plan B for if there was interior pressure, all of those were, I thought, pretty sincere failings of the Seahawks. And for those reasons, I think you have to almost certainly look at this result as meaningful and downgrade them substantially.
Yeah, downgrade to Seattle, especially situationally. The one bad team in the league that has the couple spots where, we match up actually kind of poorly in a couple spots. But kudos to LA for being able to take advantage of that. Obviously, going into a much tougher matchup this upcoming weekend against what we just said might be the best team in the league. I'm going to be teasing the San Francisco until it's up till 9, I guess. But yeah, it's more of a mandate on Seattle and kind of the shortcomings that they didn't address this offseason, because it's not like it has to specifically be that build of a team to beat them. Just good teams are going to be able to beat you now because you don't have a pass rush and you have a young secondary who has some injuries still at this point.
Yeah.
So it's and we've talked about this a couple times in the offseason with the rise of really good interior pressure players again. Like not fixing some of those things is going to be a big problem. They did have some injuries, both tackles and Lockett. They are already dealing with the injury of Adams. They had Witherspoon held out. So some injuries and kind of a bad roster build might hold Geno. And I think that it's stupid. The narrative is just going to be like, Geno's not good anymore. And I think it's not going to be the case. I think it's going to be that like this defense is built weird and it's not stopping people, and they're going to struggle. Even Garrett, they lined Garrett up inside. Like, hey, guess what? Yeah. Interior pressure is in vogue. You're an interior linebacker for 4 or 5 snaps now. That was terrifying watching him come up the fucking A gap. Like, oh no. Like, what was the one clip where he that was the Aaron Donald clip. That was the Geno God. But like Myles Garrett, there's going to be more and more of this interior pressure. If you don't fix what you have wrong in the inside, you're in trouble. So yeah, and good job to you lost Cooper Kupp. You filled in nicely.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you have when you have a good coach and a good offensive game plan.
Yeah. Really
not sustainable against good defenses, but it was a nice.
I don't know about that. I think the Rams might be a top half offense, especially if they're going to pass pro that well. Cam Akers is still a gigantic minus.
We'll find out a lot this weekend when they go up against a much better pass rush.
I also I really do not know I don't know what I'm looking at with that Rams defense. I don't know what it is. I can't identify it. It's a very, very hard read. But credit to Raheem Morris. He schemed his ass off with a bunch of players who everybody else passed on in terms of talent. So maybe they were wrong and he was right, or he is getting the most out of them. Either way, really well done by the Rams. Really impressive win. and put Pete Carroll on blast too. Like, you couldn't get your guys motivated for that off your opening home game better than that. Like, Seattle just felt like lifeless. Like, there was no fire really at all. We haven't mentioned some of the injuries they sustained to the offensive line, which potentially makes the Geno Smith problem worse.
Yeah, we just said the interior offensive line is soft. They had both tackles hurt. So,
yeah, not good. Seattle might end up being one of the bigger disappointments this year in terms of win-loss if they don't get some things fixed real quick.
Yeah, both those tackle injuries setting to monitor for this week. Does that lead us into Sunday night?
Yeah, Sunday night.
I mean, it's the same thing as what we said in Philly. Like, it was rough. That's not how you ever want to start a game. A couple of the especially on the interception, that was just a bad bounce, bad luck. The block kick, that was just a really good play on the special teams. And then again, it just bounced in such a way that a guy was able to scoop it up. That guy happened to be a fast enough player. And you got put in a really bad game state. And there's 2 or 3 teams that you really don't want to be in that game state against right off the bat. And a team with Micah Parsons on the field is one of those teams. They were just, at that point, the game was really over. The bad weather combined with we're going to be in such a game state that we're going to have to pass so many times now against a pass rush that's very much getting home. He was sacked 7 times. Really, the only tough part of that whole game was watching poor Daniel Jones out there in the fourth quarter.
Go back out there. Get back out there. Get back out there.
Like, hey, here's a designed run, which means like 50-50, you're getting hit. Why are you doing that? You just signed him. I bless him. And I don't even like Saquon, but God bless the team for taking him out. That poor guy's only on a 1-year contract. Like, if he gets hurt in the fourth quarter of a 34-0 game or something, like, oh my God, what are we doing with this team? So it was just such I don't think the Giants are that bad.
What happened to Coach of the Year, Brian Daboll?
The Cowboys probably were the right side. That number probably should have been a little bigger, but I don't think they're horrible like we showed. They just got put in such a bad spot off a couple of bad bounces right off the bat that they just had no shot. They had some decent juice there on offense. It just never got home. Again, and they were in such a bad spot from just constant pressure up the middle, constant pressure from guys that got home. Like I said, 7 sacks. So tough to really judge either team off that. Although I will say Dallas is what I expected. They were able to get the ball to CD in space, but again, in the second half, you didn't really get to see the full complement of what we're going to get for offense. They're playing with a 5-score lead.
Yeah. Did CD make his receptionist prop? He only caught 4 for 77, even though he had a 49er. I guess he probably didn't make his yardage prop, huh? That's weird. You know what did hit, Andy? Second half under. We are 2-0 in primetime halftimers. So good job by you. Thoughts on the openers? You kind of already spilled the bag. I think on the halftime show, you played some Colts, which I agree I would expect goes to a. Do you want to go down the whole list, or do you just want to comment on what you think is going to happen with a couple key markets?
You know what I should say? I should say that more memories are made for you when you're there for live NFL action. I almost forget about our good friends at Ticketmaster. And when you need tickets, Ticketmaster's got you covered. As the official marketplace of the NFL, Ticketmaster gives you more ways to find your perfect seat. I almost have this memorized. The interactive seat map gives you 360-degree previews of your section to make sure you have the best view for all those pivotal plays in the rain last night. And if your plans change because it rained, Ticketmaster gives you more flexibility to transfer your tickets, plus mobile tickets. Make getting in on game day a breeze. You can even customize your Ticketmaster app to rep your team colors. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/NFL. I don't have takes on all the games. I don't know if you want to go through any of them. I will say, like I said, I upgraded the Indianapolis offense a titch, and I bet them at a plus number on the money line because I'm not upgrading Houston's offense at all. They have a lot of questions to answer. I like that spot. And then I did downgrade Miami a little on defense because I get it was Herbert and what they were doing was a little nip and tuck at times, but they looked pretty bad at certain points. And I took New England straight up. They were,
Walk me through that one.
They were, like we said,
Not that I disagree. I just want to know what your thought process is on getting that early. You don't think people are just going to lose their shit all week on how good?
I wonder if I made a mistake by jumping on it so early, and I didn't really need to because Miami's going to get talked up all week. But I looked at my numbers. I did some quick upgrades, and I said, I'm really, really thinking that this is a very good defense. I think we thought that in the preseason. I think we thought that last year, and it's going to be a much, much harder task to go deep against the secondary.
Absolutely true.
And it's on the road. It's divisional, and I don't think New England's a bad team. They really probably should have won that game against one of the best teams in the NFC. If they don't spot them a 16-0 lead, that defense keeps them in there. So, I'm in on New England. Both of them just number plays for now. It's just I'm off numbers on these, and then I did play the over. I gotta check my bookmaker account here. What price we have here? Oh, of course, Chris logs you out a lot now.
Yes,
and you have to double click the login to get in.
Double click every single time. I don't understand.
Like take a couple days off in the middle of a week, maybe like a Thursday, Friday. And just do the maintenance you need to do to get this figured out, but it sucks. So, Chargers, Titans. I did take that over 45. That's been steamed up a little from now.
Chargers,
that's another
Titans.
one. That's another one where a couple people made that point. I had looked at totals kind of from a cursory glance, but when people mentioned it, I dug in, and that's probably should be a 47. So I bet that I think that's steamed up. And then the other one I've bet so far this morning, which was fortuitous timing. Somebody shared the Clev TA tweet, which I hadn't seen, but made me feel even better about getting a 41, was the Cleveland under the Conklin thing. That offense is going to be really predicated on the run. It's going to be slow, grinded out. I don't know what they're able to get done against a better defense this week. So I played that under.
Yeah. It's what were they thinking putting New Orleans, Carolina as the other Monday Night Football game? Was there a reason for that?
I don't know if the reason is for double Monday nights.
I don't either. And I definitely don't want that standalone game. Sorry. The macro thoughts on why home teams were so week one. Macro thoughts on the totals continuing to hit to the under, because we'll just for context, the opening totals were closer to 46. They across the board got bet down into the 44 range, and they've opened week 2 in the 44 range. My average total for an NFL game is still 43 as currently rostered all these teams, and actually it probably is going to go down a little bit after what once we kind of digest what we saw with some of these offenses getting downgraded. What do you think?
I think we're at a spot where it's not even just like, this too high shelf. Figured out some of these quarterbacks. Teams are rostering their defenses in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more effective at slowing down some of these explosive offenses. It's more effective on keeping teams from extending drives. It's hard to put I'd like somebody smarter with me with a data science background to do some research on this in general, but it just feels like there's better defenses even without star players, because they've rostered them properly and built them properly. And there's some really shitty offenses out there right now. We've had a lot of wide receiver injuries across the board. And I mean, some of the overs, like I said, we didn't even get the yardage we really needed for the Jacksonville over. The Green Bay over felt a little fluky.
Yeah, there was a bunch of defensive touchdowns that game stayed under.
And that's the thing too, that there were 7 or 8 defensive touchdowns this week. Like there was a lot of defensive scoring as well, and games still were staying under. So I think scoring will stay down. And I think lower scoring games help road teams in general. It's weird. It was a weird week for sure. Thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on tonight's game?
I played the under already. That's down to 44.
Keeps. I think 44 is key enough.
That's where
that's the inflection point.
Yeah.
We're going to see some resistance. If you see a 43.5, it's gone in a second kind of thing. But that is in June that opened at 47.
Mm-hmm. Most of what I'm watching and most of the injury stuff I need to kind of dig in before I get involved with week 2. But at kind of first glance, I like your reads.
I feel horrible about betting on the Patriots against Miami, but I had to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens with that market if Patriots are, because you know how this goes. When there's a hot side and it should win and it doesn't come in, like it gets bet again.
That's fair. That's a point in my favor.
So it's probably going to get bet. I just don't know if you're going to get if you are patient, maybe you get a 2. Did you get 2.5 or 2?
I just straight up.
My line. Okay.
I don't know that it gets to 3. So I was like, I'll just take the like +1 or whatever.
I'm curious to see if the people who bet against Denver go against them again now with Washington instead of Las Vegas. I mean, that's like an equally stinky road dog to try to get involved with against Denver. But I know some of the people who are cold Denver were also hot Washington, so I could see that going down to 3. Interested to see if Dallas comes off a 3 once that gets more widely available. I guess it's at circa 3.5, so maybe it is bettable everywhere. Yeah, Niners one-way action makes sense to me. Chargers. Did you feel to you like there was Chargers two-way today? Did somebody come back on Tennessee and pull that in a little bit?
I'll have to look. I just thought
kind of assumed that was going to be.
I haven't followed that market.
I kind of assumed that was going to be 3.5. I guess it got to 3 minus 125 before there was some Tennessee buyback. Yeah. So they found some 49ers Tennessee resistance.
There was a release from a group that you can spell with the words in release, I believe, on the 49ers. So that's where you move up, especially early in the week when there's some syndicate moves or whatever you want to call it like that. I used them in a teaser.
Yeah.
With tonight's game, I took Jets +8, Niners -2.
What do you think about the Gigantes?
If there ever was a bounce back spot, Drew, and I really think they have some nice weapons on offense. Man, 4.5 on the road, 39.5 for a total, laying over a field goal on the road with a total under 40. I'd like to see how that turns out in general.
But like they kind of the key reasons not to lay the points with the Giants don't really apply to this in this handicap. Maybe we'll just save this for Wednesday.
This is a good one to discuss on Wednesday because I bet if I look at my power numbers, it's going to say I should probably take some Giants in that spot because I didn't move the Arizona number a bit.
No, and honestly, if you get your guys rah-rahed up and you have a chance to beat Washington, then that's how the game unfolds. I'm not sure how you get them up week 2. And being on the road, it doesn't really spook me this early in the season for the Giants. I think the Giants probably handle business pretty comfortably there. Road field advantage, man.
Road field advantage. Let's see if my Giants number is probably like a -1. 1.5. We'll see what I do with them. They got a road against a pretty bad team.
Obviously the Cowboys influences this, but road field advantage.
I make it like 5.5.
Was -3 this week 1 so far.
Yeah, I think the Giants. This is a good opportunity for the Giants offense to get sorted out. They have pieces. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. It was just a very, very bad showing.
Yep.
So, Drew likes the under tonight. I teased the Jets. I'm just excited, and many people have talked about this kind of closing thought. So many fun what ifs because we had the Diggs drama with Allen. We have a fun stud tight end coming in. Everyone's excited about, and Kincaid. They're gonna probably instead of trying to find this wide receiver 2 they've been searching for, they're just gonna run 12 personnel more, and they're gonna use big guys against stack boxes, and they have 2 receiving tight ends. That could be fun. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen with the Jets? They have the players. Their defense could be legitimate top 1 if they reach their ceiling. It's definitely in the conversation for a top 5 defense. And Rodgers looks engaged. And it's stupid that we have to use that as part of the handicap on how a quarterback will play, but when he's happy and he's fully focused on playing football, he's probably can still be very good. They have a lot of good receivers. They have a couple of good running backs. It's an offensive line that might start to give him some trouble. So interesting to see that the Bills pass rush versus Aaron Rodgers tonight.
Yeah, good shit, man. All right, talk to you at halftime.
Yeah, it is Monday. We'll see you guys. Hit the thumbs up. Buy your tickets.
It's a Ticketmaster. Is that what you were saying?
I said buy your tickets at Ticketmaster.
Just wanted to make sure I got clarity there.
I'm excited for tonight. It'll be a good game, especially after